introduce you to our guests here at the round table once again. Hermann Pretorius, who has been a steady friend of the show here as we've been unpacking from the debate season. The one debate was cancelled, but nonetheless, we had 3 lively debates here in studio. And of course, Daniel Elof also joining us again. It's great to see you both in studio. I'm just trying to get a sense of, where we are at now with, the election results that have started to come in. I think a safe place to start, Hermann, is maybe Florida. I see over 80, I'm seeing almost 90%. I don't know what you're seeing on your research there. Almost 90% of the vote in Florida, and Trump is leading.
Yes, I must say, Trump is showing a strong performance in Florida, with the New York Times showing a likelihood of 95% and above of Trump carrying the state. Yep. So, as Daniel was saying on our way here this morning, Florida, if Trump can clear this hurdle, it is the first hurdle that he needs to clear towards the presidency. If he falls at this hurdle, I doubt there's a realistic chance to get to the White House. If he clears this, he's got about 6 others to go. But a strong start for the Trump campaign, I think. And
I mean, it's huge, Daniel. 29 electoral college votes. That's what Florida accounts for. So it's a must-win. Do you see because I believe that the counting that's taking place now is the votes that have happened in person, and perhaps the mail-in ballots will be counted after the fact. Do you see those mail-in ballots doing a quick turnaround for Biden and giving him Florida?
They might, although I don't necessarily think it would happen in Florida. It might, I think, become relevant in some of the other states. I think if by this morning we see that Trump has gotten the majority of the votes in Florida, that he'll most likely take it. But like Hermann correctly said, it's the first hurdle that Trump needs to clear. I think the mail-in ballots will have a much larger effect in some of the other key swing states, which will only get results of a tad later this morning.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at some of the other states. I see Florida's actually reported 92% of the count that's now completed. Let's talk for a second about Georgia, another swing state. It is historically Republican, but southern Georgia is sort of becoming more of a battleground area. We're seeing many of our US counterparts in the news networks taking it now county by county, because that's what it's also going to come down to. And that's why we saw the candidates visiting those strategic counties where it might make a difference in the state overall. So southern Georgia recently becoming quite a sort of battleground area of Georgia itself. That's of course due to the growing black electorate there in that area. 16 electoral votes is what Georgia accounts for. How do you see it going, Hermann?
I think it still goes towards the Republicans, quite likely. There's a very, very strong Republican heritage in Georgia. The Democrats have been making progress, I think, with the candidature for the gubernatorial position 2 years ago with Stacey Abrams, putting in a solid performance, but the Republicans still ultimately prevailing. And I think Georgia will, for some election cycles, still be an almost purple state. I think the Republicans still have the edge there for at least 1 or 2 election cycles. Perhaps it's the inverse of a Pennsylvania, where the Republicans for 10, 20 years really desired Pennsylvania to become a solid purple swing state. And it's possible, against all odds, that Donald Trump has finally converted Pennsylvania from a leans Democratic to a legitimate swing state. But at this point, I think Georgia's still a leans Republican state.
Yeah, it's looking like 57.5% so far going to Trump in Georgia, 41.4% going to Biden in Georgia state, but 31% of the overall vote there counted so far. I mean, is it fair to say that Biden will need to completely change the map of the Electoral College in many ways for him to take these elections?
Well, I think the point is that Biden has a lot more options and routes to get to the number of Electoral College votes that he needs. I think Trump really has a clear, determined path that he has to achieve in order for him to get the victory. Biden has a few options. There are a few states here and there that he might afford to lose, and he'll still get where he wants to be. And I think Georgia is one of them. If Georgia doesn't go Democratic, I don't think it will be such a massive problem for him necessarily. But again, you know, each and every hurdle that Donald Trump clears brings him closer to that unlikely victory that people didn't expect in 2020, and they obviously didn't expect in 2016.
I want to bring us some live visuals coming to us from downtown Washington, D.C. now at the Black Lives Matter Plaza. That's that 2-block long section of 16th Street in one area of Washington. A lot of people gathering there. You can see crowds and crowds of people gathering there, awaiting the results of the 2020 elections. Hermann, if you think about, you know, the news cycle over the past few months, it's been quite a harrowing time for Americans. Even now, as people were going to the polls, we saw businesses were closing up their shops. People are describing a vibe of real anxiety in many parts of the U.S. People saying they're just going to vote and then they're going back home. They're really afraid of the civil unrest that might erupt one way or another. We're in Johannesburg, but what can you sort of gauge from what we're seeing from our friends, our colleagues in the U.S. about what the air is like there?
I must say, what I can sense is an almost 2 decades long failure of two political parties that have really, and this is the sad thing about looking behind the scenes at many of the congressional and political events in Washington, is these people work well with each other when the cameras are off. Behind the scenes, they co-sponsor bills, they negotiate deals. But when the attention is on them, immediately it's a partisan divide that gets pushed from both sides. And I think it was Joe Scarborough that wrote a book, When Washington Worked, about the presidency of Ronald Reagan and the speakership of I think it was Speaker O'Neill, I can't exactly remember, but a Democratic speaker, a Republican president that had such a good relationship, not just collaboratively, but in the public eye as well. So if you look at this kind of visuals, I think what you see is failure from a political system from both sides to actually show this isn't about division, it's about a country.
Yeah, absolutely.